A few circuits are considered a must for the Lotus 49 community. Spa, Watkins Glen, and the Nürburgring are obvious ones. But perhaps the most popular and unique is Monza's combined layout. This oval road course hybrid is unlike anything else on iRacing. It almost always puts on a good show, so let's see what it has in store for us today as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legend Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is our director Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. This Italian staple of motorsports has built itself quite a history in its century of existence. Let's head to our track guide to find out more about it. Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well-known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years. Well, Christian, as I said, this seems to be an incredibly popular one and something that is hard to find elsewhere on the surface.
Yeah, I mean, it's completely unique. I know we talk about kind of modern tracks with roval configurations, but this is like, well, this is the original variant of that, and it's, it takes it up to 11, really, because you run this entire massive old-school oval that's just super fast, ridiculously fast, really. And then you run, essentially, the modern GP circuit as well. But today, we're not even running the first chicane, so even better, even faster. We are running the second chicane, which I do think is a little bit better than trying to cut through it. But yeah, just such a ridiculously fast track, to be honest, and it will be a draft fest. Probably partly why it's so popular, but it should put on a pretty amazing race. And I mean, look at that, it's nearly 10 kilometers long.
Absolutely, and one of the few places on iRacing where you can get a car actually 4 wheels in the air airborne, and it's not a rallycross car, so that'll certainly provide some fun, no doubt. Now, as for the race details, you can see we are in round 8 out of 12. It's starting to get down to the last part of the season. 14 laps that they're going to be doing. It doesn't sound like a lot, but as was mentioned by Christian, it takes a bit to get around this place. They don't have a spare car to try and save them if they do get damage out there, and unfortunately damage tends to be pretty big at this circuit. They have a drive-through penalty at 17 incidents, disqualification at 25, so you got to keep it on the black stuff and within the white painted lines as well throughout the race. So as far as the championship goes, Topi Cortinemi is the big story because he's finally taken over the points lead from Brandon Hawken, but it is by a single point. Sebastian Tixier is still hovering back there in 3rd position. Ryan Walker, having incredible consistency this season, is now up to 4th, just ahead of Ben Zocco. Very close fight for that spot. And Jorge Nieva isn't all that far behind as well. Kind of astonishing to think that he used to be fighting for the F2 championship not that long ago. He has grown immensely in recent seasons. Very tight behind them as well. Olsen, Plumley, well, both Olsons, I should say, fighting for 7th, and then Togo Hisada, who's kind of been in and out this season. But that is just the F1 championship. We also have an F2 championship, which is for lower I-rating drivers.
Yeah, and in the F2 Championship, David Rossi still leads. Another 39-point score for him last week. So picks up another 9 over Michael Grissinger, who's lining up there in second. Don Peake is down a little bit off the lead. He's 37 points back, but he's only got a slight advantage there over Robert Oberetta and Gary Ho. That 5th place spot is pretty close as well. Marcus Seifer is just 1 point behind. And then you've got Hideki Kavista, Zach Purcell, Timothy Porter, and Tobias Harvey rounding out the top 10.
And as for the Cup of Nations, we've got Finland, Canada, Spain, and the United States in your top 4. But Finland has been steadily climbing up ahead of Canada. Finland being mostly promoted by Topi Korteniemi and Hawken, giving a lot of points for Canada. Beyond them, it's been a lot more separated. And then you can see a few other surprises in there. Singapore is actually for Tixier, who is providing a lot of their points, and then Japan for Hisada and a couple other drivers who have come in this season to help provide some of those. And we are in the midst of the qualifying, which obviously not going to be as important. And since we did get one of the rare splits in this series, it's not going to be a full field, but it still will have plenty out there. The only big thing to me, Christian, is that, well, hopefully they got out for the qualifying early, just because it does take so long to get one down.
Yeah, it is a very, very long lap in not just length, but also time. So just under 5 minutes to go, see Topi's already started his lap. He's got plenty of time. He'll definitely get at least one in, probably both. That said, qualifying here, it's not as important, but I do think that you want to at least be starting in about the top half of the field, just because you don't want to get kind of split off from the lead pack, because that's really what's going to determine if you've got a chance to win this race or not. You have to stay in that lead drafting pack, and then really once you get to the last lap, pretty much all bets are off. And if you're in that pack, you've got a chance. It doesn't even matter if that pack goes all the way back to 10th place. I really think you've got a chance. So you see the jump there coming onto the GP side of the track. I think he just got the wall there, Tixier.
Yeah, it did look like it. Is he keeping speed up? I'm trying to tell from here, but I was going to ask you about to touch on that I had mentioned. It's one of the most unique features about this track, the fact that it has the jump, as we call it, coming off of the oval. So I mean, I've found there's almost kind of a specific approach to that. Do you want to kind of expand on that one?
Yeah, it'd be a specific approach when you're running it by yourself. It's just much more difficult when there's cars around you. My kind of go-to for that is to sort of run it towards the bottom of the track, just because then if it does kind of take flight and go to the outside, you've got kind of room to work with. But as always with the 49, if there's ever an area where it's going to take off, you absolutely want to try and hit that jump as straight as possible and not have any wheel input in when you land, because any input that you've got is just going to pull the car to that side. And we've seen that a few times, especially at the Nürburgring. We saw Togo Hisada's amazing save when he did that, but then we also saw Laust Olsen's crash in the same place. So yeah, there is a bit of an art to kind of flying and landing the 49, which sounds crazy, but you know, that's the car, and that's how it is.
All right, so we've got 3 drivers with lap times in, a few more coming around to get out there. Brandon Hawken with the provisional pole over Topi Korteniemi. And anybody who is just now crossing the line, unfortunately, I don't think... Okay, so they've got just about enough time if they have just crossed it now. But anybody after this point is only going to get the single lap at most, because qualifying will wrap up before they can come around. So we'll see about half the fields, it seems, with only 1 lap time. So as Togo Hisada has brought himself up into 3rd, usually pretty good in these oval style races, because we can't really quite fully call this one an oval. Hawken, let's see, he is currently coming through on what looks like Curva Grande down into the first chicane, at least in this version, which is Della Rosa. And that has got to be quite the change up, going from 200 plus down to about 50 to 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's a bit weird in that kind of sort of, that sensitivity to speed, because you're in the entire oval completely flat out. You run through Curva Grande. It's a proper corner, obviously, on this layout, because the car doesn't really have the downforce, well, it has no downforce, to deal with that at full speed, and your approach speed is very, very high. And then you've got this really, really slow chicane afterwards. So it is quite an adjustment. I would say certainly more of an adjustment to this track than it is somewhere like Le Mans.
Bad news for fans of Tixier. He's parked the car. His first lap was deleted, so he's done with qualifying. He's going to have to start from the back. Michael de Turk suffering the same. Not sure if his was an actual full-on wreck or just maybe had a spin or an off track somewhere. But Brandon Hawken is just coming around to finish that second lap. Let's see if we have any changes here in these final few moments of Q. And Hawken out of Parabolica. The finish line comes up relatively quick here as he goes under the gantry. And this one got deleted for him as well, so he's not able to improve. Where's Cortinemi? He just crossed the line. Doesn't go faster either. Oh, here comes Xavier Sanchez, though. Usually a fast driver. Could he spoil the party?
It looks pretty good so far. He's got 2:26.4 to beat.
Not quite. 2:26.8, though. Does jump him up into fourth, so second row for him. Again, just a slight improvement that won't mean a whole lot. Qualifying is over, though, and that is it. Just a scant few drivers able to cross the line in time, and Brandon Hawken first among them. In the pole, Topi Cortinemi will start from second. It's Togo Hisata starting P3 with Sanchez, as we saw late in the qualifying, taking fourth. Ove Trangrade will be fifth. Then it's Matt Wright. Excellent qualifying for him for sixth position. Kane Lasky will start seventh, and John Olsen eighth. Row 5 as Miro Hrazky and Paul Schmalenberg.
Row 6, Neil Kemp and Lars Olsen, with David Rossi lining up in 13th alongside Robert Plumley. Gary Quellen makes a return to the series. He's lined up in 15th with Kyle Ridley alongside him. Gwendolyn Old and Matthew Maudsley are 17th and 18th, with Nicholas Morelli and Ben Zoko really far back here today. He's lining up in 20th.
A bit surprising there. Gary Ho 21st with Jack Olstead 22nd. Will Lamb will start P23. Last two to set times are Andrew Mitty and Javier Mosquera. From there on down, all drivers that are just gridded by iRating: Tixier, Taturk, Power, Coivisto, Rodriguez, Aguilera, and Risto. All right, 31 drivers that are going to be taking part here today. And again, this is top split. We had 62 or 63 total, somewhere in that realm. Plenty to keep us entertained for today's race. Who is going to be able to get off the line and be able to get themselves some space up at the front? You can see it's relatively warm on the track, which is only going to add to the concern for the drivers in what is a chaotic race often. Looks like we just about have everybody out there. We're waiting on Seamus Power back in the back of the field. Pops himself out there. All right, let's go racing here at Monza's combined oval and road course. The engine's rev, the lights are up, and the green flag is out. Brandon Hawken is off the line a little bit slower than Topi Cortinemi. Now, if he gets the lead coming into the oval, he might have to give it back on the backstretch, but they're going to go side by side through here. Doable, but they'll want to get sorted eventually.
Yeah, you really don't want to be below that yellow line, as we see a bit of an incident in the back of the pack. And something I didn't get to mention before the start of the race, the starting grid here, with it being half the straightaway width, is very, very tight. So anyone with a slow getaway kind of created a bit of a stack up behind them.
Yeah, there was somebody who got clipped, and it, like you said, it almost caused an accident, but then they disappeared, either internet connection or they alt F4'd before it took out the entire field before they got through the first corner. Now that comes the jump off of the oval. Let's see who gets airborne, who has to get airborne, being on the inside. Look at them hop, and will everybody get out of there clean? So far, no big wrecks, but now flying at over 200 miles an hour, Hawken and Cortinemi play a daring game of chicken.
Yeah, and Hawkin on the outside at the disadvantage here. Courtney's got the inside, but will flip around for the second chicane. It looks like Hawkins a little bit braver on the outside.
Somehow manages to carry the speed. Courtney unable to overtake him. And now they all slow up into the first real braking zone. And unfortunately, someone is off the course. A little bit of contact.
He's been spun around.
We'll be able to return, it looks like. So just the smallest of contact comparatively. That could have been a much bigger incident. I don't see all that much in the way of drivers with limping cars, just having to regain a few positions. Hawkin ahead of Courtney, but it's Togo Hisada sitting in third. Granted, he's starting to lose a little bit of touch. That's the exact opposite of what he wants here. He wants to stay right with them. However, that said, Christian, 2 seconds. I've seen the draft effect as far back as 2 seconds at this track.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone just completely ended up off the track. It's Matt Wright. He was off the road. Oh, and there's another major incident happening behind Enzo Ascari. We saw this last season when we ran the GP layout. Thankfully, it's not as bad, but still numerous cars involved.
Pecaristo, Aguilera, looks like Hideki Koivisto and Paul Schmallenberg, unfortunately, all set back, but most of them able to get going. Nicholas Morelli is in pit lane. Joan Rodriguez also in there, along with Rasky. So seems like not everybody got away and was able to carry on. But watching Xavier Sanchez sitting in fourth position, Ove Trangrade just kind of hassling him. And Sanchez is going to be a good example here. 1.8 seconds back from Togo Hisada, who is now caught up with that front two. Let's see how much time is gained as Courtney is going to try and take a look for the lead up ahead of us. But here comes Ove Trangrade popping to the inside of Sanchez. Thankfully, they're able to swap and get back single file for the second half of the oval.
Yeah, and that's a good move to do that kind of swap draft. So now, really, Sanchez should do the reverse as they come onto the GP loop, and it's going to gain them a significant amount of time.
Topi is your new leader, and Hawkin looks like he's going to try and take that one back as these two also swap back around. So, yep, all the veterans of this series, I think, kind of know the game at this track, and the gain has come down to about 0.6 of a second. Sanchez caught up by about 1.2 seconds right there.
Yeah, it's just all about trying to stay in that lead draft until you get to the last lap, and then, as you saw there, you could be as far back as 2 seconds, and you've got a chance at winning the race.
So John Olsen might be where we see that first split. Kane Lasky is caught up to them as well in 6. Olsen's back by just over 2 seconds. He could still get them, but it's going to take some cooperation from he and those behind him. He's got Laust Olsen in there and Robert Plumley. We do have a couple onboards. We already saw Tixier here today. We'll see what it's like from on board the driver's perspective at this frightening course. You're seeing the leaders now coming down into the braking of the Ascari chicane as we switch back. And yeah, no surprises here. The pucker factor is through the roof here today for Laust.
Yeah, it absolutely looks like it's at maximum today, and really no surprise.
So constantly watching the mirrors, looking everywhere. You need to have a 360 swivel. And interesting pass attempt. Courtney just went by Hawkin into Parabolica. Now, not something that you usually want to try and do because he's going to get repassed pretty easily here, but I guess he wants that track position.
Yeah, I wonder if that's kind of one of those moves for the end of the race, to just see if you can do it and how hard it is to do, because you got to remember that the finish line is on the side that runs out of Parabolic and into the oval, so that's... You kind of want to be ahead, I think, coming out of Ascari, but if you can make a move on someone into Parabolica, then certainly you want to try and see if you can do it now, because the risk is pretty low. If it didn't come off, you would have gone back as far as maybe 4th, but you would have still been in the train.
Meanwhile, it is now our top 4 as Ove Trangrade seems to have dropped back, but he's going to start to pull forward. Kane Lasky, though, had some sort of slowdown penalty. He was 2 seconds behind. He's slowly catching up to that now. And I think he's pulling along Laust Olsen. So that might be the game of leapfrog that they were needing in that second pack. Meanwhile, Is this Sanchez going to try and take the lead? It is. Xavier Sanchez going to try to go all the way to the front, but they have to hit the brakes finally into Curva Grande, and Cortinemi says no.
Yeah, and this is the kind of track that we've seen Xavier Sanchez be strong on. You know, we've seen him be strong on the ovals. Pocono, which is kind of like the world's simplest road course. So it's not really too much of a surprise to see that he's pretty good at Monza combined.
So still at, well, no, it's not their top four. Trangray did catch them, it looks like. Lasky's trying to get up there as well. I think in the back of the pack, Jack Ulstead looks like he had an issue. I think he made some contact with Will Lamb there through the De La Roja chicane, unfortunately. But we watch with Togo coming down, fighting for another win. I think he is up to 3 or 4 victories at this point in his career in the Grand Prix Legends Series. Despite a championship, not that many wins, but he does have quite a consistency.
It's another major incident at Ascari. It looked like it started out with David Rossi getting into the back of Gwendolyn Old, and then everyone else has just piled in.
Gary Quellen in there, unfortunately. They're all off in the gravel runoff, and there you can see the incident. Unfortunately, the 32 car collected in that one, as we're going to take one more glance at it. It's going to slow it down. Yeah, 32 just straight up got into the back, outbraked himself, and there was not much that you could do from that point on. And just the pileup that followed was really the big downfall of everybody.
Yeah, it looked like he just kind of... I don't think he was trying to come back onto the track. It just kind of looked like the spin was sort of continuing on, and he ended up back on the track. And unfortunately for Gary Quellen, there was nowhere he could have gone.
So pretty much in a straight line here in this group. Not so the one behind, as I think Neil Kemp just got overtaken. No, it was Laust Olsen who just got double passed by Robert Plumley and John Olsen. We have had a few big movers. Remember, guys that failed to set a time, De Turk and Tixier. They're up 15 and 13 positions respectively.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that they could actually get back in the lead fight.
Yeah, I'm looking at the gaps. The first of our, the first of our 2+ seconds is after them. Interesting stuff here. So they theoretically could catch up to the leaders, and they've got the laps to try and do it. Another incident for Jack Olstead. I think he's going to exit out of the race. Yeah, it looks like he's had to take a tow. Not sure what caused that one, but I saw him disappear and head to pit lane as we watch from above.
Yeah, you see a little bit of a gap opening up there. The 3-car lead train, and then back to the next group behind. But that gap's going to close up pretty quickly.
And the speed seems to be there for De Turk and Tixier. You do need to be at least somewhat quick around here, as there's still battles up at the front. You can see in our sort of second group, kind of hybrid group, that was a little wide there, I think, from Laust Olsen, who dipped to the outside. That cost him some time on John.
Yeah, and fortunately for everyone in the second pack, the lead group continues to fight and continues to check itself up. And it's allowing Ove Trangarade, and now Kane Lasky has joined that lead group.
Robert Plumley is about 2.8 seconds back, so they do need them to fight and continue to fail to use this to their advantage. Oh, Kane Lasky's in pit lane. Does he? Yes, he has a black flag. Either he did not serve his slowdown correctly, or he has had too many off tracks and he's got a drive-through penalty. Whatever the case, he's now out of that fight.
Yeah, that's unfortunate for Olsen behind, because that's obviously taking a car out of that group. And now the gap is quite large to the lead group of 5.
Look at them fan out there in the front group. Incredible stuff. Sanchez is now going to be your new leader. Cortinemi's in second. Trangarade moves up to third. Hawken, usually a relatively cool character. I wonder if he is going to just kind of sit back here towards the back of this group, just kind of hold on.
Yeah, I mean, there's honestly not a whole lot of point in trying to lead the race when we're only a third of the way in.
Yeah, he saw a chance to take it 3 wide and lifted there. as Cortinemi takes it back away from Sanchez. Trangrade gets into third, slides a little bit wide through Curva Grande. That's Hisada back fifth in line in this group. They're now a full 4.2 seconds ahead of Neil Kemp.
Yeah, and that second group is getting really spicy right now. Got a lot of too wide through Curva Grande. I think Plumley's lost out a little bit, but it looks like the Turk and Tixier are trying to move to the front of this group as someone in that group has just had a spin out of the chicane.
There's Laustolson, it looks like, as he applied the throttle a bit too much. I tend to like these tracks for the Lotus 49 where you have the really long gearing, just because it does allow you to get on the throttle a little easier, but it seems like it hasn't taken away that threat completely.
Yeah, and it can kind of go one of two ways with the longer gearing, because it makes it there's a bit more jeopardy going between the gears. You know, you can kind of snatch one, especially on a downshift, much more easily, especially if you're using first in this car. Actually, it's quite unforgiving. So I know that always kind of comes up as a consideration when we go to these long tracks, and gearing is always a talking point amongst the community, but seemingly never more so than on tracks like Monza Combined, Le Mans, Daytona, and so on.
So they start yet another lap here, and it is still 5 together. So Tixier is up to 8th. De Turk now up to 9th. They are steadily picking them off one by one. They've got 2 more cars to go in that group. They'll be at the front of that pack. And then from there, who knows what's going to happen? Are they going to get swallowed right back up, or are they going to be able to maybe pull a gap off of them or drag them farther up to this pack, which is your leaders overall, bounding over the bumps of this old oval, which is not raced anymore, we should clarify. Hence why it is so bumpy here. It was scanned at the behest of the community who wanted to see it included. They cleaned it up a little bit so that it was raceable, patched up that part that you just saw. Whoa, and off into the grass goes Sanchez. Can he hold on to the group after that mistake?
Yeah, I think he can, and he's going to get a bit lucky because we're coming into a little bit of a braking zone here for Curva Grande.
Yeah, didn't lose enough that he has to worry about that. More so, probably just needs a change of pants and be thankful that he did not hit the wall.
Yeah, a very scary moment for him. And talking about the second group, I don't think they're going to be able to close that gap. It just looks like it's too much now. Tixier has got to the front of it, but I think he's just too far back.
Ooh, he might be too far back, but he's starting to pull away because there was a big bobble coming off of De La Rocha for that second group. Neil Kemp had trouble getting the throttle down. That held everybody up. Tixier is about 1.7 seconds ahead. He's got another chicane before he gets back to the oval. If he can get a fantastic run out of there, he might be able to get out there on his own.
Yeah, he might. I'm just not sure that he wants to do that. Ideally, he would have kind of pulled De Turk and even Ben Zoko, who was up to 11th, through, and they could have kind of done a swap draft in 3-car group, and that might have given them a chance. On his own, I just don't see how he's going to close the gap.
Yeah, it'll certainly be tough. You can see them in the background there, and you can see the breakaway as one lone car has pulled ahead. Yeah, there you go. De Turk still kind of stuck in behind Neil Kemp. It's 1.8 seconds. So what can Tixier do from here? Does he want to pull away, or will he allow them to catch up by just lifting a hair and letting them climb up to the back of them? I think he wants to pull away. He is keeping his foot in it.
Yeah, I think he's just got to kind of hope that if they catch back up, that he's going to kind of pull him along a little bit, and that maybe there'll be a mistake in the lead group that'll check them up enough just so that he's in their draft. But it's a long way now. It's almost half of this backstretch.
Back up to the front group. Cortinemi's your leader. Hawken has moved back into second. Sanchez gets shuffled back to fifth with his error last time out. See if everybody makes it over the jump safely. Interesting that some try to go low where it's got more of a leap off the ground, and others try to brave the outside and straighten it out. Hawken gets up to the front. Trangrade trying to take second away from Cortinemi. He'll have the inside coming down into Curva Grande. but hanging tough. Cortiniemi, the Finn, our championship leader, is going to try and keep that inside once they switch back into De La Rocha. He does. He's in P2.
Yeah, and in terms of the championship, these next two races, I think they are important for Hawken, because we have seen that Topi is kind of really stolen a march on the majority of the typical road courses, and he's looking very, very difficult to beat. But if Hawken can take a win here and at Michigan, it will at least give him a little bit of a buffer to play with for the last couple of rounds.
Absolutely. And you talk about Cortiniemi having the march on him. Last 4 rounds, they have finished 1-2. Topi and Brandon in that order. All 4 races have been those two in P1 and P2. But we'll see if Brandon can switch that around today, as we see with back into the Ascari chicane. Seems as though Olsen is now leading ahead of Deturk. John Olsen, I should clarify, and Kyle Ridley in there trying to use Ben Zoko to catch up to the group. I think they should be able to. He's about a second back.
Yeah, it's you see Tixier has managed to actually escape now, and Deturk hasn't been able to go with him. But unfortunately for Tixier, he's out there on his own, and he's actually not losing much time to the lead group, but he's not gaining any either.
The one thing that surprises me in this race is that we don't see more guys from the oval side of iRacing hop over, because it does remind me so much in strategy and everything, except for the fact that you just have some left-hand turn or right-hand turns of super speedway racing.
Yes, I can see how it applies across, and that's kind of where I feel like Sanchez is strong in that regard. But it's got to be the car, you know. It's
yeah.
The stock cars are quite difficult, but the 49 is unique, and I mean that in the best of ways. But it's certainly not something that you can just hop into and expect to be able to compete. So I think that's probably why we don't see more of them. But maybe next week at Michigan.
Coming down into the braking, this second group. John Olsen around the outside, but he sends it in too deep. Michael Deturk is able to get to the front finally, and it's right at the start of the road course. Can he use this to finally get away from those behind him and catch up to Tixier? Tixier about 3 seconds ahead currently. So looks like Sebastian has truly broken that slipstream to those behind him. But Deturk having a harder time trying to stretch away. He is pulling John Olsen with him. Zoko's about 9/10 of a second back as they come out of the Lesmos.
Yeah, and this group was really led by Neil Kemp for such a long time. But since Tixier got through, now Deturk's through, and Olsen is as well. Kemp is going to be able to stay in this group, I'm sure, but don't think he's going to be able to get back to the front of this group.
For the curious, Tixier and Deturk have both gained 20 positions since the start. A little bit easier in this style of racing, but also nonetheless impressive that they have managed that so far. But that might be the end of their gains unless we get a wreck in the top 5 ahead of them, which are just now heading towards the oval once again. And they're coming across what looks like some lap traffic. That is not going to be fun.
Yeah, quite a few cars out of the race early are now trying to recover. 20 on the lead lap so far. It's actually not a lead lap car that we're catching to put one down. It's somebody else who's returned to the race. I think it's Miro Razki. It
is indeed. And they fan out 3 wide once again. Hawken, who led in, obviously with less speed, falls back to third. Trangerade up to the top spot. Now, might seem like, oh, well, you want to be third, but here we go onto the front stretch once again and watch him get swallowed right back up.
Yeah, I mean certainly if you're leading coming off of the oval, you're very, very vulnerable coming onto the GP course.
Oh, not enough of a run from Topi Cortiniemi. That, or he has elected to sit behind him for now. Not sure which is the case. They are with about 6 laps to go at this point, so Topi takes another little peek as they come into the braking for De La Rosa, but a slight defense from the Norwegian has kept him back there. Hraski unfortunately cuts the chicane, but the slowdown penalty will automatically force him to have to give up those positions, stay out of the way into the Lesmo. So there's one down. That does cause Sanchez some headache, but he should be able to catch them back up on the oval.
Yeah, it's dropped him off a little bit there, but as you say, he's going to pull that gap right back up as soon as they reach the oval, if not before.
They do even get some slipstream here on these long straights. And back up to, there we go. There is Topi Cortinimi outbraking Trangrade into Ascarian. Ever since you mentioned at the very start that he could be testing the waters, that's another one I wonder if he's just going to see how difficult is it? How much do I have over this 16 car?
Yeah, and I think you've got to do that, and that is a big part of super speedway racing. I know, obviously, GP side of the track is not so much that, but it does come down to the positioning. It does come down to figuring out early in the race where and how you can make moves, so that you can, kind of pull them out of the box at the end and be like, haha, here's how I'm going to win the race. But it's true. That's exactly how super speedway racing is. You'll get guys they'll make 1, 2, 3 moves at the beginning of the race, and then they'll just sit there in the pack the entire time. They'll do nothing. They'll just execute pit strategy, which we don't have here today, but they'll just execute the race, and then suddenly out of nowhere, with, I don't know, 5, 10 laps to go, they'll just spring out and get into the lead, and you'll wonder how they ever did it. But if you go back and watch, you'll be able to figure out that they figured out how to make the moves and then just executed them at the right times.
I love how super speedway racing somehow turns you into an old-timey villain. But update on Michael de Turk. He and John Olsen got into a big wreck. It's going side by side into Curva Grande, and they have both had to tow to pit lane. So there goes the incredible run for Michael de Turk. In the end, all was for naught. Tixier is still up those 20 positions in 6th spot as our lead group now comes into Curva Grande. They successfully navigate it, though. Hisada managing to move himself up into 2nd, past Ove Trangarade. Sanchez thinking about looking into De La Rosa, then getting back into line, and unfortunately, Togo Hisada across the chicane. He gets actually hit by Brandon Hawken. That's bad news for a championship hopeful. Did he get some damage out of that? He's still close enough he'll have the draft.
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay. It looked like Razki kind of touched the back of him as well, but yeah, just Hisada got it a little bit wrong on the braking, and then saw himself kind of coming back onto the track as we saw with David Rossi, and Hawken I just don't think could see the car until the last moment. Gave him a little bit of a tap, and unfortunately I think Hisada is now out of that lead fight, but that's given Tixier the opportunity that he needed to try and get back into this lead group, because now it's strung out, and I think he might just be close enough.
He sees Vraski in front of him, so that's going to give him a little bit of a launch, and then Vraski's maybe about a 1.5 seconds behind Hawken. Yeah, this, again, I use that term, leapfrog, that he's going to have to use some of these lap-down cars to see if they will give him a shot at things. What a story it's going to be for that 5 car if he can actually get up to them. I think we've lost a couple others. Matt Wright says that he vaulted over the wall while crashing, and I'm going to assume he is also in pit lane in that case. Yes, he is. The number 26 has unfortunately been sent right back to the pits. There is the number 1 of Brandon Hawken in the yellow car. He is about 7/10 behind Sanchez and regaining. Tixier is pulling up behind on Miro Hraski, but I'm not sure that it's going to be enough. It seems he's just a little too far behind. Meanwhile, this is that second group. Remember, we had about 8 cars involved. Then there were 3. That's Neil Kemp overtaking on Zoko with Olsen the third in line.
Yeah, and that is now just a group of 3 fighting for that 6th spot. It's really dwindled down, but that's because we've seen a couple of cars have managed to move themselves into the lead group, and others have obviously had incidents and fallen away. But rather amusingly for Matt Wright, he is credited as having led a lap of the race, and by about 1 minute and 5 seconds by virtue of jumping over that wall.
Apparently, yeah. Wow, okay, so not only did that, but he landed in pit lane, and it gave him a speeding penalty on top of things. So I've never heard of someone crashing, leading the lap, and getting a speeding penalty at the same time. iRacing, make an achievement for that one.
Yeah, you know, I almost feel bad that he picked up the 5-minute penalty for doing it, because it's so it's got to be such a random thing that could only have happened in the most specific of circumstances.
Oh, wow. Well, as we take a look at that battle for the lead, Topi Kortaniemi is now up at the front of them by about 0.7 of a second. Sanchez still needs to close back in. So Trangerade and Hawken have got to hope that Sanchez can maybe pull them forward a little bit. They should be able to. They got another lap traffic car. That's Robert Plumley in front of them. Should hopefully be relatively easy for him to let them by. And Plumley's actually heading into pit lane, so he is going to be out of the way easily.
Yeah, and Plumley we saw start the championship pretty strong with a good run of highly, top 10 finishes. And unfortunately, it's just kind of gone away from him in recent weeks. At one point, he was second in the championship.
Yeah, but need that valuable consistency, especially in this series, along with the speed. Meanwhile, down the back stretch, looks like Sanchez is not only caught, but passed Kortaniemi. Hawken with them, Ove Trangerade in fourth. Tixier, sadly, is all the way down to 5 seconds behind Ove Trangerade. So the lapped car did not help like he would have hoped. A little bit of a hop there. Sanchez repeatedly likes to go off that corner low for some reason.
Yeah, well, that's my preferred strategy, is to run low, just so that if it does jump up, that you've got that area to run wide. I really don't like kind of just chancing it running the top of the track for fear of accidentally clipping the wall one time.
Yeah, I have to go up high just because I've had too many bad experiences of the car giving a bad bounce when it lands and various things. I don't know, scares me getting that thing in the air. But these guys, some of them a little bit more willing than others, as we are now down to 3 laps to go. Going to be 2 to go pretty soon, as they're already most of the way through the lap. So your 4 main rivals here at the close of this race are Hawken, Kortaniemi, Sanchez, and Trangerade. It's going to be down to one of these 4 likely taking the win, unless they somehow take all of them out in one wreck.
I mean, it's possible. We've seen it happen in the past in the 49 series. Everybody races with some serious respect for each other just because of the difficulty of the car and everything. But incidents do happen, and especially at tracks like Monza, where the margins are very, very fine. I do feel for Tixier a little bit. Obviously, not getting that qualifying run in has really cost him a shot at winning this, because he's driven all the way up to 5th and has just been out of the draft range. Which is really unfortunate for him, and likewise for the guys who didn't get qualifying laps in, who've also shown good pace. Zoko, we lost to Turk, but it's unfortunate that we didn't have an 8-car fight for this win.
It's all what could have been, unfortunately, but we still got a good one, I think, coming our way, and especially the second half of the top 10. Zoko's leading Olsen and Kemp still. Those 3 could definitely have an interesting fight to the line on this one, but it's definitely going to be a fight to the line for these guys, as you see another move down to the inside from Topi Kortaniemi. He knows he's got to keep pulling ahead in terms of the points, trying to break away, but Sanchez is faster down the straight, and he is now up to the top spot. Even on the curves here, they are going 195 miles an hour, and then they get into the air at that speed as they come down the front stretch. It starts to pick up. We've seen speeds as high as 215 in this series before in these cars. Looks like 204, 205 for some of them. Ove Trangerade, 207 as he finally hits the brakes down into Curva Grande.
Yeah, now we're starting to see some proper oval moves going on. We've seen a lot of kind of swapping around 2 wides and whatnot, but now we're starting to see 3 wide shoot in the middle, which, it's a good strategy because the two ahead of you are punching a massive hole in the air, and you can kind of take a big advantage of that.
Trankrade with a big slip up coming out of De La Roja. Falls back to about 6/10 back. Might not catch that up before the road course section is over. He's going to have to wait for big, long oval curves to really gain in. And now it's up to 0.8 of a second. Sanchez and Hawken aren't going to be happy about this.
Yeah, and they need to not try and pass him, because if they do, they run the risk of being entirely out of the draft. But this couldn't have gone any better for Topi. He's got a fairly nice gap. It's unfortunately going to drop away entirely once he gets onto the oval, but he's at least removed one, maybe two areas where he could have been passed, and that's going to be pretty vital for this last lap.
Indeed, Trangrade nearly a second behind now. He should be caught up by the end of the oval. Not sure if it'll be by halfway. We'll have to wait and see as they come around Parabolica. Tries to send it in as hard as he can and then get on the throttle as they all exit. Watch for Sanchez and Hawken behind him as the white flag waves, and we are down to 1 lap to go.
Yeah, you can see that gap already coming down. It was as high as 9/10. It's 0.8 as they enter the oval. It's probably going to be as low as 0.7 as they come off this first turn.
That's already down to 6/10, into 5/10 now as they fly down the backstretch of the oval. And here goes the move for Sanchez, trying to see if he can use both of them. As he comes up, he's going to have to go very, very low. Instead, it looks like Trangrade thinking about high, backs off of it as he's setting up the move here. That's not going to be the last chance, though. Remember, they can outbrake each other on the road course portion of this lap. Now he's got the run. Sanchez going to go up the middle. Hawken is behind, watching it all. Is he going to have a chance? He's got a massive run. Somehow finds some space, but he's 2 wheels in the grass as they fly down the front stretch. He's got a little bit of room, but he has to brake early, and that's going to allow Trangrade in a second, but Sanchez leads.
Yeah, I saw that massive run. He sat way back on the oval, but it's not over. Topi's in, unfortunately, the worst position. He's been absolutely boxed out.
Oh, and he puts his wheels on the grass while braking. Can he hold on to it? He's trying his hardest to stay with it, but no. Topi Cordiemi might not even be on the podium here. And now Sanchez is leading, but will that remain to the finish? Hawken has not won since they went to Barber back in Alabama at round 3, but he's got a chance to return to the top spot.
Yeah, and he needs this win. He needs to try and get this move done. It doesn't look like it's going to happen in Ascari, but it could happen in Parabolica if he gets a good run.
Braking.
Oh
no! Is this going to hand third to Cortiniemi? He's going to have a slight cut course penalty. Hawken is back to third. Cortiniemi is now coming up on him. They're going to go 3 wide. Sanchez is going to take the win on this one as Trangrade, unfortunately, a little bit slow off the corner himself. Cortiniemi around the outside. Hawken's going to have to send it in deep.
Spin it!
Oh, both of them going a little too hard. Sanchez is going to be the win. Hawken trying to cut back, and so is Cortiniemi. He gets the run around the outside. Cortiniemi's going to take second as Sanchez wins, and Hawken winds up in third. No, Trangrade. Oh, excuse me, Hawken. It switched around on the timing and scoring. Trangrade will settle for fourth. What a finish.
Yeah, I so thought that Hawken was looping around in Parabolica there. He had the car in kind of one of those death slides, and it looks like Zoko has lost out on that opportunity. Laus Olsen right on the line.
Oh, my goodness. It was tight between them. Zoko in 6th, Kemp 7th, Laus Olsen in 8th. Everybody else behind them is very spread out. The only other battle we've got is Mascara and Lasky, it looks like. This is for 14th position. We'll see if Lasky makes a late dive on that one. There's Andrew Mitty coming to the line as well. There is Lasky, but he looks like he was slow off of Ascari. So a nice 11 position gain for Mascara. Looks like 16 up for Hideki Koivisto as well. By the way, Tixier's final tally, 21 positions gained on this one. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Monza. As always, the combined version gave us an incredible finish. But even past the oval, it was amazing racing, with Xavier Sanchez taking the win. And while it was about a second and a half ahead of his rivals, he only got that at those last corners there in the road course, managing to outgun everyone. Topi Kortaniemi, Brandon Hawken came down to the final turn, along with Ove Trenger. It really was a three-car fight to the line. Ove just about snookered both of them there around Parabolica. But Topi once again beat Hawken, except for the first time in 4 rounds. It was not a 1-2 for them. Sebastian Tixier managed to go from last, or close to last, up to a top 5 with 21 positions gained in 5th. Ben Zocco was up to 6th from 20th. Remember, he had a poor qualifying himself. Neil Kemp finished 7th as Laus Dolson was P8th. Then you've got Matthew Maudsley in 9th. And Seamus Power deserves a pat on the back, going from 28th to 10th today.
One of the few drivers who didn't have a massive change in position today, Paul Schmalenberg, he came home in 11th. Andrew Mitty, though, he gained 12 spots to finish 12th, but Hideki Kovista also gaining 16 positions, finished 13th. Javier Mascari, we saw him a little bit at the end there, having that battle with Kane Lasky. He comes home in 14th with 11 positions gained. Lasky, we saw having to make that early pit stop for a penalty. Unfortunately, that means he dropped from 7th to finish 15th. Kyle Ridley, last car on the lead lap, went 16th to 16th, so a fairly uneventful race for him. And then we're into drivers who kind of had big issues throughout the day. Gary Ho, 2 laps down, is 17th. Togo Hisada, we saw involved in that lead fight, unfortunately comes home 4 laps down. Robert Plumley and Will Lamb rounding out the top 20, all 4 laps down.
Yeah, it's pretty much DNFs from there, as you can see. I tend to expect that a lot of times in this series, but we do have, I believe, our second place finisher ready to talk to us, Topi Kortaniemi, after he unfortunately was not able to make it 5 in a row, but he did beat his main rival on points. So got to think that that's a good day for him. Topi, what a finish there at the end, but you kind of got sent back to the back of the group after the oval. Were you thinking this is it, or did you still have some fight in you, hoping that you could get back the lead?
I thought that I still tried until the finish line, because I knew the guys gonna give everything in the last few turns, and I already saw in the race that Xavier, and congrats him for the win, he was quite aggressive, so I think something might happen, and just still kept pushing for the last few turns.
And that gave us incredible last few turns. You and Brandon, and even Ove, making it 3 wide in a few cases. I mean, what was that experience like in the cockpit?
I don't know. I thought that Brandon was going to send it in the inside into the Parabolica, and I kind of broke late, so I can take a fast outside line and beat him in the exit. But I was too fast into it. And I don't know, I think he burned up his tires because he was drifting all the way in the exit of Parabolica like a proper 4-wheel drift. It was good to watch, but I don't think it's the fastest way.
We did get to see it, and everybody got to watch, so that was incredible. Oh, well, you survived the first of the 2 kind of random rounds here with Monza combined. Michigan up next. How's your oval chops?
I don't know. I'm still figuring the oval stuff, and I'm starting in a Finnish Oval League in the end of this month, so I'm gonna do some oval thingies in the next week.
Oval thingies. Well, I'll have to ask Christian if that's the technical term. Congratulations on a podium, Topi. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Joe.
That was Topi Kortaniemi. Meanwhile, we go to the master of the oval thingies, Christian Challoner, talking to 3rd place, Brandon Hawken.
Brandon, it looked like you had the opportunity at the race win, and your main rival, Topi Kortaniemi, had been shuffled out. He's back and forth. You had the chance for the win, and then when it got to Ascari, what happened? It looked like you just snatched inside front.
Man, I'm really mad at myself for that. Man, I didn't account for the extra speed I had in the draft before the braking zone, and I just blew it. That was man, that's rough. I felt like I had a really good shot there coming down to the final corner, and I didn't need to do that. I just totally blew it. But Man, that was some wild stuff. Man, we were the runs we were getting were absolutely crazy, and yeah, coming down to the on the long straightaway, like before the normal first chicane, I just got this huge run, and there wasn't much room. I had to go in the grass a little bit there. Finally got into second. Thought I was in a really good spot, but man, I just totally botched that. But man, great racing regardless though, and man, that was so much fun racing with everybody. I thought we were all gonna like die basically on the oval at some point, but everybody kept it together, and that was just a ton of fun. Man, I'm disappointed in myself for blowing that, but man, great. Yeah, just great job from everybody, and man, we'll see if we can get her next time.
Well, speaking of next time, you have Michigan coming up, which is, you know, very similar style of racing to what we saw here today, and you look like you have this figured out pretty good. You got any thoughts on that race, and if it'll be similar to what we saw here today?
I think so. I'm thinking the runs we get probably won't be quite as strong, but the racing will be equally as close, I think, if not closer. So, yeah, it's going to be a game of timing your runs, just not making any mistakes that can put you out of it, and be there at the end. I do a lot of oval racing as well, so I hopefully I can put that experience to use, and we'll see if we can get it, man. Great win from Xavier there, and man, disappointed, but we'll see if we can come back next week and get it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll certainly be looking out for you next week. You got a little bit of a bigger gap now to run down to Topi, and was there kind of any thought to the championship when you went for that move towards the end of the race? Because you could have taken just having a small points gain, but you know the win was there. Was there any kind of factor of the championship in why you were kind of going for that, or were you just looking for the race win?
I wasn't really thinking championship there. I was just going for the race win, and I didn't need to do that. I was I didn't want to. I wasn't meaning to dive it in there, but I was just going too fast, and I just locked her up there, and man, I'll be kicking myself for a little bit today, but I was just going for the race win. Saw it like right in front of me, and I thought, if I could get a good run out of Ascari into the final corner, I might be able to get it done. But it wasn't meant to be today.
Well, congratulations anyway on the third place finish. Another podium for yourself, and we'll look out for you next week at Michigan.
Hey, thanks, guys. See you next week.
That was Brandon Hawk in third place, and then also third place, apparently in the second split, Don Peak got himself a podium. Don, I hope you have some champagne in that mini fridge nearby, but we didn't get to see any of that second split, so you have to enlighten us what happened.
It was about what you'd expect, I think. A lot of draft battles through the pack. Just a quick update for the F2 championship. I guess, was Rossi in the top split?
Yep, he was.
Okay. Grissinger crashed out with on lap 3. I saw him go over my head, and then I placed third. So that's I think that'll help me out some of the points. Beyond that, it's about what you'd expect. A lot of carnage. I assume probably same in top split.
We had a number of DNFs, but really the story for ours was the fact that it was a four-way battle pretty much down to the last lap, and even a battle at the final corner for second place. Did you guys have anything like that coming to the line? Was it still undecided all the way to the finish?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because the lead pack was 4 cars, and I was not in it. I was actually running 5th by myself for most of the race, and then there was a couple of the cars in the lead pack got tangled up. Actually, Marco was involved in that in the first chicane, and a couple of cars went out, and I ended up more or less inheriting third. Was racing Marco pretty hard right at the end, but I wasn't going to catch him.
Well, we're glad we were able to talk to you on getting a podium here. But anything special you're going to do to celebrate this achievement?
Well, I think my wife and I are going to go to Columbus for the Irish Festival this afternoon. So.
Well, that sounds like a good time to me. It was Don Peak, congratulations, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you in circumstances like this more.
I hope so.
Don Peak, third place in the second split, and I think we are going to be talking to the man who somehow climbed from 26th to 5th. Christian Challenger's caught up with Sebastian Tixier.
Deb, it was a pretty awesome climb, to say the least. We were watching you throughout the whole race, and you gained a lot of spots at the beginning, and looked like you were just on the edge of the draft of the lead group, just not quite able to get to it. Was that a little bit frustrating, because you looked like you had enough pace to fight for the win today?
Well, yes, I mean, I had my quali lap should have been like a 26.9, and I didn't see the 0x, so I was a bit frustrating, because the second lap I didn't push and I did a mistake, a 1x, so I was like, oh, it's okay, I already had a good lap, but no, started from the last position on the grid, and I was thinking, yeah, it's okay, I'm going to do a good start and pass a lot of people, and when I grid and I see, okay, there's barely enough room for two cars wide, so I'm quite happy to start so far and finish only 5 seconds from the leader pack. So I had a quiet race in the middle of the race, so I was like safe from like crashing. So no, I'm quite happy with my top 5.
Yeah, so you mentioned that 0x on the qualifying lap. I think we actually caught that. Did you pick that up on the exit of the oval? Because it looked to us like you just about grazed the wall with the left rear.
Yeah, maybe, but I was so concentrated, and you know, at the end of the oval, and I set up my simu cube quite high, so I have to really force a lot on the steering. I have to actually lean right to push, so I was so concentrated, I didn't see the 0x, and at the end of my lap I looked at my split, my delta box, and there was no star at the left on the lap time, so I thought, hey, it's okay, it's valid. And the second lap I tried to push, and I went too far in the first chicane, and I get a 1x, but I was like, it's okay, I already have a good lap, but yep, nope.
Well, it certainly made it exciting for us. And next week, a kind of similar style of racing, Michigan. You got any thoughts on that one?
Well, the same thought than on this one. This one I did like 10 laps, and I decided that I didn't like the track. For me, it's like more like a gimme track. I don't like racing on that. And overall, for me, same. It's like it's kind of roll the dice and see what happens. I'm not good on overall.
I think today kind of shows otherwise. I know there was a bit of a GP loop and whatnot, but you know, you still gained 21 positions, so I think you'll do just fine. But it's been a while since we've chatted with you, so is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
Same type people every time, Lotus community and you guys from the broadcast.
Oh, thank you, and congratulations on such an amazing race to come from the back and finish in the top 5.
Thank you.
That was Sebastian Tixier finishing 5th, which is going to wrap us up here. So we also want to send our thank you to the community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here of the Grand Prix Legends Series, but also thanks to the team today, Rob, Christian, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, website, and merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race, as we mentioned, is the oval race of the season. They always have at least one here in the Grand Prix Legends. That'll be Michigan, Saturday, August 13th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here, because up next, the Camel GT Series is heading off to actually I have failed to update that, and I'm trying to remember where it is, but regardless, it's going to be at 1 p.m. Eastern. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.